Hello and welcome to Geek Week 7. It's Monday the 21st of January and that means it's Speciality Week and it's Matt's Musical Mondays. So today we're going to be doing a genre history of hip hop. I know, the revelation, Matt likes hip hop. Did you mention it before? Did you mention it? Maybe once? Did you mention it? I'm going to start by looking at the history of hip hop from the late 70s. It goes further back and obviously a lot more into the present, but we're going to do this point as this is the most important era of hip hop in my opinion, as this is when it solidified what it meant and the stylings and everything that surrounded the culture. So the first thing to know is that it is a culture. It's not just rapping, which is kind of how hip hop's become, and there's kind of like a dissonance between what is hip hop and what is rap. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to talk about hip hop and then we'll talk about rap at the end. So, hip hop was kind of defined by a gentleman called Afrika Bambaataa, and he started a gang in New York called the Zulu Nation. This was a time when gangs were quite prevalent, and you kind of had this whole like culture of violence going on in New York. And it was kind of the point where you had to be in a gang to be safe or walking the streets. So Afrika Bambaataa was in one of these gangs and then decided that he was going to start a new gang, but it was going to be completely non-violent. The whole point of it was musical expression and kind of an outlet for people. And he started this, Zulu Nation, and he coined the 5 elements of hip hop, and these are very important. You've got the first element is rapping and MCing. MCing is just another word for rapping. So you've got basically MCing or rapping, and beatboxing kind of goes in with that. That's the first element. Just one element of 5. And the second element is DJing, which is the blending of 2 records together, usually using a crossfader which comes on a mixer, which looks a bit like this. Shows his dirty desk. That's kind of a mixer there. Well, it is a mixer. Okay, and what you'd use the mixer for is you'd have 2 vinyl players, one with one vinyl, one with another, one playing a song, and then you could mix the next record in. And this was never done before. You'd play a record, then play the next one. So the idea being that you'd keep continuous music going. And then what they'd do is they'd break up the best parts of the songs and realise this is when people are most amped during the song. It's usually during a middle 8, which is just a break in the record where it's usually instrumental, and it'll be the part usually where the drummer is doing something a lot more interesting, which is where the term breaks come from, when you hear, oh, these are the breaks. So what they do is they'd find this break in the record, this like 8 bars, where it'd just be a really nice drum beat, and then what they'd do is as soon as it was about to end, they'd switch to the second record, and the second record would start at the beginning of the break again. And they created this whole idea of like making music that people could dance to and would really get amped for. And that brings the third element of hip hop in, which is breakdancing. And the whole point of breakdancing was to dance to the breaks. That's why it's called breakdancing. They were originally called B-boys, and they were just called break boys, and they were basically dancers that were waiting for those breaks. And when hip hop started doing this, obviously there you have the perfect combination. And then we have the 4th element, and the 4th element of hip hop is graffiti. And then with graffiti, it's actually got quite an interesting start in life in the hip hop culture. And the idea would be that they'd spray their names up on a train, and then this train would leave their part of the city and then would travel around, showing what their culture was to the rest of the city who had no idea what was going on. And of course, they all just saw it as vandalism, but they didn't. But they all saw their name, and that was kind of a big thing, was being able to have a way of expressing yourself and making people realise that this culture existed and that this person existed, and that's a really interesting beginning for an art form. And the 5th element of hip hop, which is the most important element of hip hop, is knowledge. And this always gets forgotten, and people sometimes quote the 4 elements of hip hop, but there's 5. Afrika Bambaataa set out 5 for the Zulu Nation, and the 5th one was knowledge. And it was important that you'd get across what knowledge you had in your songs, in your raps. It'd just generally be a way of people sharing socio-political ideas, and it was a huge part of the movement. If you like these histories of genres, let me know in the comments, and I'll do some more. I gotta go because I was going to run out of time in a minute. I don't want to be punished.